The sun peeked through the leaves, making the forest floor sparkle. It was a perfect morning. Cool and calm, just how Tom liked it. He lived in a small house right at the edge of a big old forest. Every day, Tom would grab his worn hat and head out for a long walk. This was his favorite part of the day, a time when he could leave all his worries behind and just be with nature. As he stepped onto the winding dirt path, the air smelled fresh and earthy. Tall trees reached up to the sky like giant green hands, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. Tom took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the clean scent of pine and damp soil. He loved the quiet of the woods. It wasn't completely silent, though. Little birds chirped happy songs from hidden nests, and squirrels chattered as they chased each other up tree trunks. A gentle rustling sound came from the bushes as a small deer darted away, its white tail flashing for a second before it disappeared. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. Tom smiled. He knew all the secret paths and the best spots to see the sunlight filter through the leaves in a magical way. He walked slowly, his boots crunching softly on the fallen leaves and twigs. He wasn't in a hurry. He never was when he was in the woods. His eyes scanned the trees, looking for new flowers that had bloomed or any interesting stones on the ground. He felt a deep peace here, a feeling of being connected to everything around him. The forest was his happy place, a giant green hug that always made him feel better. Tom continued his peaceful walk, enjoying the gentle quiet of the forest. He stopped for a moment to watch a busy woodpecker tap-tapping on a tree, its red head bobbing with each strike. The air was filled with the usual sounds of the woods, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a hawk, the buzz of a bee. These were the sounds Tom knew and loved. But then, something new broke the calm. A soft, strange sound drifted through the trees. Tom paused, tilting his head. It was faint at first, almost like the wind sighing. But then it came again, a little louder. It wasn't an animal cry he recognized. It wasn't a bird or a squirrel or even a deer. This sound was different. It sounded like crying. Tom frowned, a puzzled look on his face. Crying. Deep in the wilderness, far from any roads or houses, a crying sound was very odd. It wasn't the yelp of a hurt animal, which he had heard before. This sound was softer, more like a baby's whimper, full of sadness. He listened closely, his heart starting to beat a little faster. The sound came again, a tiny, mournful sound that tugged at something inside him. He was quite far into the forest now, in a part where very few people ever went. There were no cabins, no campers, no one who would have a baby out here. The thought made a shiver run down his spine. What could it be? And why did it sound so sad? The peaceful feeling he had enjoyed just moments before began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of wonder and a touch of worry. He had to find out what was making that sound. The strange, sad crying sound filled Tom's ears, pulling him forward. His peaceful walk had turned into a mystery. He knew he couldn't just leave a distressed sound behind, especially one that sounded so much like a helpless baby. Taking a deep breath, Tom started to move towards the noise. He walked slowly, putting one foot carefully in front of the other, trying not to make much noise himself. His eyes darted from side to side, sweeping over every tree trunk, every cluster of ferns, and every thick bush. The forest suddenly felt different. Before, it was a place of comfort, but now it felt full of hidden things. Every shadow seemed deeper, every rustle of leaves made him jump a little. A tiny bit of fear began to mix with his worry. What if it wasn't a baby at all? What if it was something else, something dangerous? The crying came again, a little louder this time, telling him he was getting closer. It sounded like it was coming from a thick patch of thorny bushes, a place where the trees grew very close together and the sunlight barely reached the ground. Tom pushed aside a low-hanging branch, his heart thumping against his ribs. He felt a nervous flutter in his stomach. He was deep in the woods, far from anyone, and he was about to find out what was making that heartbreaking sound. He told himself to be brave. Whatever it was, it needed help. He just hoped he wasn't walking into something he couldn't handle. Tom pushed through the last thick branch, his eyes wide, ready for anything. What he saw made him stop short, his breath catching in his throat. There, caught in a tangle of thorny bushes, was a creature he never expected to see. It wasn't a human baby, nor was it any animal he knew. It was a baby, yes, but a very unusual one. It was covered in thick, dark brown fur like a little bear, but its face was more like a monkey's, with big, sad eyes. It was much bigger than any human baby, perhaps the size of a small child, but it was still clearly very young. Its tiny hands, covered in fur, were trying to pull away from the sharp thorns that held it tight. A soft, pitiful whimper came from its mouth, the same sound Tom had heard drifting through the trees. The creature was stuck fast. Some of the thorns had pricked its fur, and a tiny drop of blood showed on its arm. It looked scared and helpless, its big eyes blinking slowly. Tom felt his fear melt away, replaced by a strong wave of pity. This wasn't a monster. It was just a baby in trouble. A very furry, very strange baby, but a baby all the same. He took another slow step forward, making sure not to startle the little creature. It whimpered again, a low, sad sound that went right to Tom's heart. Its fur was messy and tangled with leaves, and it looked so lost. Tom knew right then that he had to help it, no matter how strange it seemed. This little one needed him. As Tom looked at the big, furry baby, a thought clicked in his mind. The stories he'd heard, the old tales whispered around campfires, suddenly made sense. The size, the fur, the human-like face but wild eyes. It could only be one thing. This was a baby Bigfoot. He had always thought Bigfoot was just a myth, a fun story to tell. But here it was, right in front of him, a real, living baby, tangled and hurting. The little creature whimpered again, its big, dark eyes looking up at Tom with a mix of fear and pain. It was so young, probably just a few months old, and completely helpless without its parent. Tom felt a rush of something he hadn't expected, a strong need to protect this secret, vulnerable creature. He knew that if anyone else found it, especially someone who didn't understand, it could be in great danger. People might be scared, or they might try to capture it. This baby deserved to be safe, to be with its family in the wild. His heart went out to the little Bigfoot. It was shaking slightly, its small, furry chest heaving with each soft cry. "It's okay, little one," Tom whispered, his voice soft and calming. He didn't know if the baby Bigfoot could understand his words, but he hoped it could feel the kindness in his voice. He had to help it get free from the thorns. There was no other choice. This scared, lost baby Bigfoot needed him, and Tom knew he couldn't turn away. With his mind made up, Tom slowly moved closer to the baby Bigfoot. "Easy now, little one," he murmured, his voice soft and low. He didn't want to scare it any more than it already was. The baby Bigfoot watched him with wide, fearful eyes, its small body still trembling. It let out another tiny whimper as Tom knelt down. He reached out a hand, very, very slowly, so the baby could see his movements. He didn't touch it right away. Instead, he just held his hand out, showing it he meant no harm. The baby Bigfoot blinked, then sniffed the air with its little nose. It didn't pull away, which Tom took as a good sign. Then, with great care, Tom began to examine the thorny branches that held the creature captive. The thorns were sharp, and some had really dug into its thick fur. He knew he had to be gentle. He started with the thorns that were easiest to reach, carefully pushing them away from the fur. He worked slowly, his fingers nimble, trying not to hurt the baby. Each time a thorn was freed, he saw a tiny flinch from the baby Bigfoot, but it didn't cry out loudly. Tom talked to it the whole time, a low, comforting stream of words. "Almost free, little guy. Just a little more. You're doing so well." He was careful not to look directly into its eyes too much, as he knew some animals found that scary. He just focused on the thorns, patiently trying to untangle the baby Bigfoot from its thorny trap. It was going to take some time, but he was determined to get it free. As Tom worked to free the baby Bigfoot, his fingers carefully picking away the sharp thorns, one particularly stubborn branch snagged deeply into the creature's fur. The baby Bigfoot let out a loud, startled cry. It was a sharp, high-pitched sound, much louder than its earlier whimpers, and it made Tom flinch. The little one pulled back, its eyes wide with pain and fright, its body shaking more fiercely. "Whoa, whoa, easy there, little fella," Tom whispered, trying to calm it. He paused for a moment, letting the baby settle down. He knew he had to be even more careful. He took a slow breath and tried again, moving even more gently than before. He spoke to it softly, telling it he was trying to help, that it would be free soon. This time, as he slowly pulled the thorny branch away, the baby Bigfoot just squeezed its eyes shut and let out a soft groan. But it didn't cry out again. It seemed to understand that Tom was trying his best. Little by little, as more branches were moved and the painful pull stopped, the baby Bigfoot's trembling began to lessen. Its whimpers became softer, turning into quiet sighs. It even stopped trying to pull away, staying still as Tom worked. Tom saw the change. The fear in its big eyes lessened, replaced by a tiny spark of trust. It seemed to realize that this kind stranger was not hurting it on purpose, but trying to help. This made Tom feel a wave of warmth. He kept whispering gentle words, encouraging the baby Bigfoot as he continued his slow and careful work. The biggest, most painful thorns were almost gone now. Finally, after what felt like a very long time, Tom pulled away the last of the stubborn thorns. "There you go, little one," he whispered, a sigh of relief escaping his lips. The baby Bigfoot was free. It slowly unwound itself from the tangled branches, its furry body stiff from being held captive. Tom carefully looked over the little creature. Its thick fur had protected it well, but there were still a few small scratches and red marks where the sharp thorns had poked through. One little cut on its arm had a tiny bit of dried blood, but it didn't look deep. He gently brushed some loose leaves and bits of bark from its fur. Even though it was free, the baby Bigfoot didn't jump up and run off. It sat there, looking a little wobbly, its big eyes still holding a deep sadness. The fear was mostly gone, but a lonely look remained. It whimpered softly again, not from pain this time, but as if it was lost and missing something important. Tom imagined how scared it must have been, stuck all alone in the thorny bushes. It was probably very hungry and tired too. Tom reached out a hand, this time gently stroking the soft fur on its head. The baby Bigfoot leaned into his touch for a moment, a tiny sound escaping its lips that wasn't a cry, but more like a soft sigh. It still looked so small and helpless, even though it was bigger than any baby Tom had ever seen. He knew he couldn't just leave it there. It needed more help. The baby Bigfoot, though free, looked weak and forlorn. Tom knew he couldn't just leave it sitting there, exposed. Its parents, the adult Bigfoots, might be nearby, searching for their lost child. If they found Tom with their baby, they might not understand that he was helping. They might get scared or angry, and a full-grown Bigfoot was something Tom definitely didn't want to upset. He needed to find a safe, hidden place for the little one, at least for a little while. "Come on, little guy," Tom said softly, bending down. He gently scooped up the baby Bigfoot. It was surprisingly heavy, like carrying a big dog, but it didn't struggle. Instead, it curled up against his chest, its furry head resting near his shoulder. Tom could feel its small heart beating fast. It felt warm and soft, like a big, living blanket. He looked around, trying to think of a good spot. He remembered an old, hidden cave he had found once, tucked away behind a waterfall. It was well covered by thick vines and trees, a perfect secret hideout. It wasn't too far from where they were, but far enough to be safe from prying eyes, both human and Bigfoot. Tom started walking, careful not to stumble over roots or rocks. He held the baby Bigfoot close, feeling a strange mix of worry and protectiveness. He knew he was doing something very unusual, something most people would never believe. But right now, all that mattered was keeping this little, scared creature safe. He needed to get it to that cave, where it could rest and be hidden while he figured out what to do next. After walking for what felt like a long time, Tom finally reached the hidden waterfall. The sound of the rushing water helped cover any noise they might make. He carefully pushed aside the thick curtain of vines that hung in front of the cave entrance. Inside, it was cool and dim, a perfect secret spot. The air was dry, and the ground was mostly smooth earth. Tom gently carried the baby Bigfoot inside. The little creature looked around with its big, dark eyes, seeming a little unsure but not scared. He carefully lowered it to the ground in a corner of the cave, away from the opening. "Here we go, little one," he whispered, stroking its head. "A safe place for you to rest." The baby Bigfoot sat down, its fur still looking a bit ruffled, and let out a soft sigh. It looked tired. Tom wanted to make it as comfortable as possible. He looked around the small cave. It wasn't fancy, just a simple hollow in the rock, but it was dry and protected from the wind. He thought about what might make a good bed. He noticed a small patch of moss growing on one of the cave walls, and a few soft, broad leaves lay scattered on the ground. He carefully gathered some of them, piling them up in a small nest-like shape. Then, he gently guided the baby Bigfoot towards the makeshift bed. The little creature sniffed the moss and leaves, then slowly curled up on them. It still looked sad, but at least now it was safe and out of harm's way. Tom felt a small sense of relief, knowing it was protected for the moment. Even though Tom had already made a small bed of moss and leaves, he felt it wasn't quite enough. The baby Bigfoot looked so small and fragile, curled up in the corner of the cool cave. He wanted to make it truly cozy, a place where it could feel safe and warm, just like a human baby would in its crib. He remembered how sad its eyes still looked, and he hoped a really comfy spot would help cheer it up a little. Tom quietly stepped back out of the cave, careful not to disturb the resting creature. He looked around the forest floor with a new purpose, He searched for the biggest, softest leaves he could find, the kind that felt like velvet. He found some large, wide maple leaves that had fallen recently, still fresh and pliable. He also spotted a patch of thick, springy moss growing on a shaded rock. It felt like a soft carpet under his fingers. He gathered handful after handful, carefully shaking off any little bugs or bits of dirt. He wanted everything to be clean and soft for the baby Bigfoot. He carried his armfuls back into the cave, making several trips. Each time, he glanced at the baby Bigfoot, who was still curled up, watching him with sleepy eyes. Back inside, Tom gently added the new leaves and moss to the little bed. He fluffed them up, making a deeper, softer nest. He even used some of the broad leaves to create a small barrier around the sides, like a tiny wall, so the baby Bigfoot would feel more tucked in. When he was done, the bed looked much warmer and more inviting. The baby Bigfoot shifted, then settled deeper into the new softness, letting out a little sigh that sounded almost content. Tom smiled. That was better. With the baby Bigfoot now resting in its cozy new bed, Tom thought about what else it might need. Its whimpers earlier had sounded so sad and weak. It must be hungry and thirsty after being stuck for so long. He couldn't just leave it without food or water. Tom quietly slipped out of the cave again. He knew the forest well, and he knew where to find sweet berries and clear water. He made his way to a patch of wild blueberry bushes he remembered, their branches heavy with dark, ripe fruit. He carefully picked handfuls of the small, juicy berries, making sure they were plump and clean. He imagined the baby Bigfoot's big eyes lighting up at the sight of them. Next, he needed water. Close by, there was a small, bubbling spring, its water clear and cold as it trickled over smooth stones. Tom found a large, clean maple leaf, cupped it in his hands, and carefully filled it with water. It was tricky to carry without spilling, but he managed. He made his way back to the cave, holding the leaf cup carefully and clutching the berries in his other hand. The waterfall's roar sounded comforting as he pushed past the vines. Inside, the baby Bigfoot was still curled up, but its head lifted slightly as Tom entered. It sniffed the air, and Tom wondered if it could smell the berries. He hoped it would like them. He knew how important it was for the little creature to get some strength back. Tom was making his way back to the cave, carefully balancing the leaf cup of water and the handful of berries. He was thinking about how he would offer them to the baby Bigfoot, maybe holding out one berry at a time. The forest was quiet again, just the rustle of his own footsteps and the distant sound of the waterfall. Suddenly, a sound ripped through the stillness. It wasn't the chirping of birds or the chatter of squirrels. It was a low, rumbling growl, deep and powerful, that seemed to shake the very ground under his feet. The sound was much closer than he would have liked, and it was full of a wild, angry energy. Tom froze. His heart leaped into his throat, and his blood ran cold. He dropped the berries, which scattered on the forest floor, and the water sloshed from the leaf, soaking his hand. This was not the growl of a bear or a mountain lion. This was something much bigger, much stronger, and definitely very, very upset. Without even thinking, Tom instinctively dove behind the nearest large tree. It was an old oak, its trunk thick and gnarled, perfect for hiding. He pressed his back against the rough bark, trying to make himself as small as possible. He held his breath, straining his ears. The growl came again, closer still, followed by the heavy thud of footsteps. Each step sounded like a tree falling, making the ground tremble. This was it, the baby Bigfoot's parent, and it sounded like it was very, very unhappy. Tom was suddenly filled with a chilling fear. He hoped it hadn't seen him. Tom pressed himself flat against the rough bark of the oak tree, barely daring to breathe. The heavy thudding footsteps grew louder, closer. Then a huge, shadowy figure moved into view, just a few feet from where Tom was hiding. It was truly enormous, much taller than any human, and covered from head to toe in shaggy, dark brown fur. This was the adult Bigfoot, no doubt about it. It walked with a powerful, rolling gait, its massive shoulders hunched. Its head moved slowly from side to side, and Tom could see its large nose twitching. It was sniffing the air, taking in all the smells of the forest, clearly searching for something. Its eyes, even from a distance, looked worried and a little angry. It was looking for its baby. The Bigfoot stopped right where Tom had dropped the berries. It lowered its head, sniffing the ground intently. Tom's heart hammered against his ribs. He could almost feel the ground shake with each of the creature's heavy breaths. He was so close, so very close, to this legendary beast. It was bigger and more real than he could have ever imagined. The creature let out another low growl, a deep, sad sound this time. Not angry. It seemed to be confused, unable to pick up the scent it was looking for. It straightened up, scanning the trees, then turned and slowly walked past Tom's hiding spot, moving deeper into the woods, still sniffing the air. Tom watched it go, feeling a mix of utter terror and a strange sense of awe. He knew he had to stay perfectly still until it was truly gone. As the massive, furry shape of the adult Bigfoot disappeared deeper into the trees, Tom let out a shaky breath he hadn't realized he was holding. His heart was still racing, a wild drum in his chest. That was it. That was the parent. The powerful growls, the sniffing, the worried eyes. It all made perfect sense now. This huge creature was looking for its lost child, the baby Bigfoot Tom had just rescued. A shiver of fear ran through him again, imagining what might have happened if the parent had found him with its baby. It would have been a scary sight for sure. But mixed with that fear was a strange feeling of relief. Relief that the baby Bigfoot wasn't truly alone in the world, that it had a family looking for it. Relief that he hadn't just imagined the whole thing, that the stories were real, and that he had actually seen one. He stayed hidden for a few more long minutes, listening intently. The heavy footsteps faded into the distance. The forest slowly returned to its normal sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant birds. Tom carefully peeked around the tree. The coast was clear. He stood up slowly, his legs a little wobbly. His mind was buzzing. He had just come face to face with a creature thought to be only a legend. And now he had its baby tucked away in a secret cave. This changed everything. His first thought had been to help the little one. Now he knew his real job was to bring it back to its parent. The fear was still there, but the thought of reuniting the family filled him with a new kind of determination. Tom waited, perfectly still, until the last sounds of the adult Bigfoot's heavy footsteps completely faded away. He counted slowly to 100, just to be extra sure it was truly gone. The forest felt silent again, but not the peaceful silence from before. This was a silence that held secrets and a hint of danger. Once he was sure it was safe, Tom pushed himself away from the tree. His legs still felt a little weak, and his hands were trembling slightly. He had faced something incredible, something he would never forget. But his immediate thought wasn't about the amazing sight he had just seen. It was about the little one he had left alone. He quickly, but quietly, made his way back towards the hidden cave. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made him jump. He tried to move as fast as he could without making too much noise. What if the parent Bigfoot had doubled back? What if something else had found the cave? A knot of worry tightened in his stomach. He just hoped the baby Bigfoot was still safe and sound inside its cozy bed. As he got closer, the sound of the waterfall grew louder, a familiar comfort. He pushed aside the thick vines at the cave entrance, his eyes scanning the dim interior right away. His breath hitched as he peered into the shadows. Had it moved? Was it still there? He took another step inside, his heart pounding with hope and a little bit of fear. He needed to see that the baby was okay. Tom's eyes quickly adjusted to the dim light inside the cave. He let out a silent sigh of relief. There, still curled up in the soft bed of leaves and moss he had made, was the baby Bigfoot. It hadn't moved. It was safe. But as he looked closer, he saw that its big, dark eyes were wet. A soft, mournful whimper escaped its lips, a sadder sound than before. It wasn't crying from pain or fear of Tom, but a deep, lonely sadness. It looked lost, its furry little body hunched. Tom's heart ached for it. He knew exactly what was wrong. The baby Bigfoot was missing its parent. He had just heard the adult Bigfoot calling out for its child with those deep growls. The baby, even hidden in the cave, must have heard it too. Or maybe it just felt the absence of its family, the way any baby would miss its mother or father. The berries and water he had gathered seemed less important now. What the little creature truly needed was its family. Tom knelt beside the bed, gently stroking the baby Bigfoot's head again. "I know, little one," he whispered, his voice full of understanding. "You miss your mom, don't you?" The baby Bigfoot leaned into his touch, its whimper growing a little softer. But it still looked so terribly sad. He realized that keeping it safe in the cave was only half the battle. The other half, the more important half, was getting it back to where it belonged. He had to take a chance. He had to try and reunite them. Watching the baby Bigfoot whimper with sadness, Tom knew he couldn't keep it hidden for long. It wasn't just about safety anymore. It was about family. The thought of facing the massive adult Bigfoot again sent a fresh wave of fear through him. He remembered its sheer size, its powerful presence, and the worried growls it had made. What if it saw him as a threat? What if it thought he had harmed its child? But then he looked at the little creature, its eyes still full of longing. He pictured the parent Bigfoot, wandering the woods, sad and alone, just like its baby. He knew what he had to do. It was risky, maybe even dangerous, but it was the right thing. He had to try and bring them back together. The fear was strong, but his heart told him to be brave. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "All right, little one," he murmured, his voice firm but gentle. "Time to go find your family." He knew this was a big decision, perhaps the biggest he'd ever made in his life. He was about to step into a world of legends and face a creature of myth, all to help a lost baby find its way home. He hoped he wouldn't regret it. He hoped the adult Bigfoot would understand. More than anything, he hoped for a happy reunion. Taking a deep breath, Tom knelt down next to the baby Bigfoot. "All right, little one," he said softly, reaching out his arms. The baby Bigfoot looked up at him with its big, sad eyes, then slowly, carefully, let Tom pick it up. It was heavy, but its furry body felt warm and trusting in his arms. It didn't whimper or struggle, but simply leaned against him, as if it knew Tom was trying to help. Tom cradled the baby Bigfoot close, making sure it felt secure. He remembered the direction the adult Bigfoot had gone, deeper into the thickest part of the forest, away from the more open paths. That was the way they had to go. He pushed aside the vines at the cave entrance and stepped out into the dappled sunlight. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Every shadow felt like a hiding place. Every distant sound made him jump. He walked slowly, carefully placing each foot, trying to be quiet but also steady. He didn't want to startle any creatures, especially not the one he was hoping to find. He held the baby Bigfoot so its head was near his shoulder, allowing it to look out, or perhaps even catch a scent of its parent. He moved through the trees, past mossy rocks and thickets of ferns, following the faint path the adult Bigfoot's heavy steps would have left. It was a risky journey, but with the baby Bigfoot warm and quiet in his arms, Tom felt a surge of purpose. He was going to bring this family back together. As Tom walked deeper into the forest with the baby Bigfoot in his arms, he knew he couldn't just suddenly appear in front of the adult. That would surely scare it and maybe make it angry. He needed to let it know he was coming and that he meant no harm. He started making soft, gentle noises. He hummed a low tune, a quiet, soothing sound. Hoping it would carry through the trees, then he tried a soft cuckoo sound, like a bird, a friendly noise that wouldn't sound like a threat. He made sure his voice was calm and steady, not loud or sharp. He didn't want to startle the large creature, but rather draw its attention in a gentle way. He kept walking, slowly, making these soft sounds every few steps. He watched the baby Bigfoot in his arms. It seemed to relax a little more with each sound, perhaps finding comfort in his voice. Tom imagined the parent Bigfoot hearing these noises, maybe pausing its own search, wondering what they were. Would it be curious? Would it be cautious? He also tried to make some gentle rustling noises with his feet, but not too loud, just enough to signal his presence, like any other forest animal moving through the undergrowth. He was trying to act like a friend, not a foe. He knew this was a delicate dance, a careful game of trust. He was carrying something very precious, and he wanted to make sure the reunion was as peaceful as possible. His heart pounded with each soft sound he made, hoping it was enough to catch the adult Bigfoot's attention without causing a fright. Tom kept walking and making his soft, gentle noises, his eyes scanning the dense woods ahead. The baby Bigfoot in his arms stirred a little, nuzzling closer, its soft fur a comfort against his chest. He wondered if his attempts to signal were working, or if the adult Bigfoot was still too far away, too lost in its own worried search. Then, a sound. It was faint at first, a deep rumble, but it was definitely there. Tom stopped dead in his tracks. He held his breath, listening. The sound came again, a low growl, but this time it was undeniably closer than before. His heart leaped, part with fear, part with a thrilling sense of hope. It was working. The adult Bigfoot had heard him. He looked through a gap in the trees, past a thick curtain of ferns. And there it was. In the distance, standing tall between two giant pines, was the adult Bigfoot. It was facing away from him, its huge furry head turning slowly, sniffing the air. It looked like it had paused in its search, its body tense. Tom could feel the baby Bigfoot in his arms twitch slightly, as if sensing its parent. This was it. The moment he had been both dreading and hoping for. The adult Bigfoot was still too far to see the baby clearly or to clearly see Tom. He needed to make his next move very carefully. He needed to show the parent that he was a friend, not a foe, and that he was bringing its precious child home. He took another deep breath, his resolve stronger than his fear. The adult Bigfoot was still too far to make out clearly, just a dark, tall shape among the trees. Tom's heart was thumping, but He kept his voice steady as he continued to make soft, reassuring sounds. He then took a deep breath and began to walk forward, very slowly, out from behind the screen of ferns. He held the baby Bigfoot up a little higher in his arms, turning it slightly so its furry body and small, sweet face would be easy for the parent to see. He wanted there to be no mistake about what he was doing. He wasn't hiding the child. He was presenting it, showing that he was returning it safely. Each step was deliberate, gentle. He watched the adult Bigfoot carefully. The large creature stopped sniffing the air and slowly turned its head, its big eyes focusing on Tom. For a moment, it just stood there, completely still, like a statue carved from the forest itself. Tom could feel a cold shiver run down his spine, but he held his ground. He kept walking, one slow step after another, showing no fear, only a calm purpose. The baby Bigfoot in his arms stirred, then let out a tiny, excited squeak. It had seen its parent. Tom felt a surge of warmth and hope. The adult Bigfoot let out a soft rumble, not a growl this time, but a curious sound. It took a step forward, then another, slowly closing the distance between them. Tom kept walking, holding the precious bundle high, ready for the moment of reunion. As Tom continued his slow, careful walk, holding the baby Bigfoot high, the adult creature took a few more steps forward. Then, its big, worried eyes finally focused on the small, furry bundle in Tom's arms. It stopped. A moment of silence hung in the air, thick with tension. Then, a sound Tom would never forget. It wasn't a growl of anger or a mournful cry of sadness. It was a soft, deep huff, like a happy sigh, full of relief and love. It was the sound of a parent finding its lost child. The adult Bigfoot's huge body seemed to relax, its shoulders dropping from their tense position. And then, it moved. It didn't walk slowly anymore. With a powerful burst of speed, the massive creature rushed forward. Its heavy steps quickly closed the distance between them. Tom stood his ground, a wave of fear mixed with awe washing over him. The ground trembled slightly as the adult Bigfoot approached. It wasn't running at Tom in an angry way, but towards its baby. Its eyes, though still huge and wild, now held a clear look of joy and desperate longing. Tom could see the powerful arms reaching out, not for him, but for the little one he held. He knew this was the moment, the reunion. He just hoped he had done everything right. The huge adult Bigfoot charged forward, its powerful steps shaking the ground. Tom stood firm, holding the baby Bigfoot carefully. As the parent came closer, Tom gently lowered the little one to the soft forest floor. "Go on, little fella," he whispered, giving it a soft nudge. The moment its feet touched the ground, the baby Bigfoot didn't hesitate. With a happy squeal, it scrambled forward on its little furry legs, rushing straight towards the towering parent. The adult Bigfoot met it halfway, bending down with surprising gentleness. Its huge, shaggy arms wrapped around the tiny creature, pulling it into a tight, loving hug. It was a beautiful sight. The baby Bigfoot nestled against its parent's chest, its little cries now turning into soft, happy sounds. The adult Bigfoot buried its face in the baby's fur, letting out a series of deep, soft noises that sounded like purrs of pure joy and relief. It rocked the baby gently, almost like a human parent. Tom watched, his eyes a little misty. All his fear had faded away, replaced by a profound sense of wonder and happiness. He had witnessed something truly magical, a bond so strong and pure. The way the huge parent held its small child so tenderly showed a love that needed no words. He knew then, without a doubt, that he had done the right thing. The Bigfoot family was whole again. After the heartfelt reunion, the adult Bigfoot held its baby close, making soft, comforting sounds. Tom stood still, a little distance away, giving them space. He watched as the huge creature slowly lifted its head, its gaze turning towards him. Tom's heart gave a little jump. This was the moment of truth. Would it be angry? Would it see him as a threat, even though he had just helped its child? He braced himself, ready for any reaction. But there was no anger in those big, dark eyes. Instead, the adult Bigfoot looked at Tom with a deep, knowing stare. Its gaze was calm, steady, and held something that Tom recognized immediately. It was a look of understanding. And then, it was more than that. In those large, dark depths, Tom saw what he could only describe as thanks. A silent, powerful message of gratitude passed between them. The Bigfoot didn't make a sound or move towards him in a threatening way. It simply held his gaze for a long moment, its eyes soft and gentle now that its baby was safe. Tom felt a wave of peace wash over him. He knew, without any doubt, that the Bigfoot understood. It knew he had helped. It was a moment he would carry with him forever. A silent thank you from a creature of legend. After the silent moment of thanks, the adult Bigfoot turned its attention back to its baby, holding it close. Tom knew it was his cue to leave. He had done what he came to do. He had reunited a family. Very slowly, Tom began to back away. He didn't turn his back completely, just in case, but he moved backwards, one careful step at a time, creating more space between himself and the two Bigfoots. He wanted to give them their privacy, to let them have their precious moment of being together again. He watched them as he retreated. The baby Bigfoot was now completely content, nestled securely in its parents' arms. The adult Bigfoot kept making those soft, happy purring sounds, gently stroking the baby's fur. They looked so peaceful, so complete. A wide smile spread across Tom's face. He felt a happiness he hadn't felt in a long time, a deep, warm feeling that filled his chest. And amazement. He had actually seen Bigfoots, not just one, but two. He had helped them, and they had thanked him. It was an unbelievable story, a secret adventure he would never forget. He felt like he was walking on air, light and free, as he slowly backed further into the trees, leaving the Bigfoot family to enjoy their reunion in the quiet heart of the forest. He felt a deep connection to this wild place, now more than ever. With the Bigfoot family now safely out of sight, Tom turned and began his walk home. The sun was getting lower in the sky, casting long shadows through the trees. But the forest no longer felt like just a peaceful place for a walk. It felt like a place of incredible secrets, a place where legends came to life. His mind was buzzing with everything that had happened. He had found a lost baby Bigfoot, helped it, and then faced its enormous parent. He had felt fear, yes, but also a deep sense of purpose and kindness. And the look in the adult Bigfoot's eyes, that silent thank you, it was burned into his memory. He would never forget it. He thought about the tiny, furry baby, so scared and helpless, now safe in its parents' arms. He thought about the powerful, yet gentle adult, filled with relief and love. He had made friends with creatures no one believed existed. They were special friends indeed, and this was his special secret. As he walked, the path seemed brighter, the air sweeter. He whistled a little tune, a happy one this time. His everyday life, his quiet routine, now held a hidden layer of magic. He had been part of something truly extraordinary, a story that would forever be etched in his heart. The woods were not just woods anymore. They were home to a secret family, and he was part of their story. As Tom walked the familiar path back to his house, the sun now a soft orange glow in the sky, a big decision settled in his heart. He thought about the Bigfoots, hidden deep in the forest, living their lives away from human eyes. He thought about the fear and wonder he had felt, and the silent thanks from the adult parent. He knew what would happen if he told people. Most wouldn't believe him. They would laugh, or worse, they would want to find the Bigfoots. They might try to hunt them, or put them in a zoo. That thought made Tom's stomach clench. These creatures deserved to live free and safe, a secret part of the wild world. This adventure, this incredible meeting, was his own special treasure. It was a story too precious, too wild to be shared with everyone. It was a bond he had made, a trust he had earned. He decided then and there that he would keep it a secret. It would be his and the forest's secret, a quiet understanding between them. He smiled to himself. Some things were just too beautiful, too important, to be explained or shown to the whole world. This was one of those things. It would live in his heart, a warm, amazing memory that would always remind him of the day he helped a Bigfoot child find its way home. He wouldn't need proof or praise. The feeling in his heart was enough. Tom kept his incredible adventure a secret, holding it close to his heart like a warm stone. But the forest, his familiar old friend, was different now. It was no longer just a place for quiet walks. It was a place of deep magic, of hidden life, and of a powerful, unspoken trust. From that day on, Tom's walks in the woods changed. He still went almost every day, but now his steps were softer, his eyes more watchful. He looked at every rustle in the leaves, every shadow, with a new understanding. He knew there were wonders here, unseen by most, and he was one of the few who had been allowed to glimpse them. He didn't search for the Bigfoots. He knew they were wild creatures who deserved their peace. But he always felt a special connection to the deepest parts of the forest, near the thorny bushes where he first found the baby, and near the waterfall cave. Sometimes he would leave a small pile of fresh berries by a certain tree, just in case. He never saw the Bigfoots again, but sometimes he would find the berries gone, or a large, fresh footprint in the soft earth. These little signs were enough for Tom. They were quiet nods, a secret language between him and the hidden family. The forest had become even more alive for him, a sacred place filled with the memory of a grateful gaze and the warmth of a good deed. He carried the feeling of that day with him always, a quiet reminder of the incredible hidden wonders that exist if you only open your heart to them. Tom's daily walks became more than just exercise. They were quiet journeys into a world that held untold stories. He carried the memory of the Bigfoot family, a silent guardian of their secret. He knew now, more than ever, that the forest was alive with wonders beyond what most people could imagine. It was a place of mystery and magic, a place that kept its deepest treasures hidden. He often thought about the baby Bigfoot, safe with its parent, and the kindness he had shown. It wasn't about being a hero or getting famous. It was about a simple act of helping a creature in need, no matter how strange or unbelievable that creature might be. That kindness had opened his eyes to a world he never knew existed. Tom learned a lot from that day. He learned that not all secrets need to be shouted from the rooftops. He learned that true courage isn't just about being fearless, but about doing what's right, even when you're scared. And most importantly, he learned that kindness, given freely, can bridge even the widest gaps, even between a human and a creature of myth. He was glad. Glad he had heard that crying. Glad he had followed the sound. Glad he had helped. The woods would always be a special place for Tom, a constant reminder that the world holds many secrets. And sometimes, being kind is the greatest adventure of all.